All right, I'm gonna do this video on, it's basically on grading in Canvas. I'm gonna use my demo class. I think this is my, wait, no, this is my demo class. All right. So I'm gonna go through a couple things, and part of this is particular to Johnston County. So a few things that we know for COVID. Number one, we cannot count anything late in the sense of you can't take points off for that. Two, we are supposed to give until Sunday at 11:59 p.m. for students to turn in any missing work. There's also this suggestion about not putting zeros into PowerSchool. Now, I'm iffy on this because PowerSchool is one of the only ways to communicate to parents that something is missing unless they sign up for Canvas to be an observer. So I have been putting zeros into PowerSchool only so that they know that this is missing, that the student is missing the assignment. What I'm doing is setting all of the assignments that they do not lock until the end of the quarter or something near it. So I'm not exactly positive when the end of this quarter is. I've been going with March 31st, I think. So just to give them time. So I'm just going to use this one reading thing that I have. And so what I'll have done is I will have gone in and in class, I will have sat down and recorded that class, and I will literally read this entire thing out loud. You can also have students read it out loud. This helps your read aloud students. This helps with vocabulary that students may not know. So, for example, persecution, they might not either know what that means, not know how to pronounce it. So this is a time that you can go in there and you can explain that. I've had to go in sometimes and look up how to pronounce some of these things, and I think that's good for them too, to see that they can go in and look and see that they can look it up and learn how to pronounce it and definitions. But I will literally read all of this. The other thing, so normally what I do first is I will read the question in this case. Now, I know there's other assignments, different things people are doing. So I would read this, and then I'd go all the way back up and I'd read until we find the answer. And what I'm doing here is modeling how they should be going through this. And a lot of them will look at a question and then they'll just skim. So I want them to read the question, then just start reading. Like, cause of immigration. Immigration is the act of coming to a foreign country to live. I do believe is that the first one? So immigration, yeah, so that's the first one. I'll also put that into the chat so that I do that because otherwise people are like, what was the number, blah, 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 or whatever. You can ask students to find the answer. You can use some random student picking thing that picks random students. Some people, how you did the popsicle sticks where, it has the students' names, you can still do stuff like that. The other thing I've done is maybe read the whole thing and then I'll go and be like, first one to tell me this gets XP in Classcraft. Or you don't even have to do that. You can be like, all right, blank is the act of coming to a foreign country to live. All right, who can find that? Who can answer that? And they'll just put it into the chat. So that's one way of doing this. And this reading aloud part is super helpful. This would also be a time, though, that you can show them. There was one time I was like, I don't feel like reading. So I went in and I clicked on the read and write, and I was like, I I'd read it was a long chapter, and I just kept, hang on. It's gonna let me do it now. Come on. There we go. So you could just highlight it.
Immigration is the act of coming to a foreign country to live. The act of leaving one's country to settle in another is called immigration.
And so that's helpful. If you don't want to read it out loud, you can have that do it. By modeling this and having it do it, that also helps the students who have read aloud, right? So the other thing here now, so that's just one thing. If I have a reading, I'll do that. A couple things in here. So what I'll do, I will sync to PowerSchool all the time. I normally will click sync to PowerSchool every single day. Anything in here I allow unlimited attempts unless it's a quiz. Now here is another part that is important. There are some students who have multiple extra days to do things, or maybe you've gone through a class and one class is ahead of the other, so they get an extra day, or one student gets 2 extra days to do something. In here where it says assign, we can add other groups. So I could put in here, so let's say here is a student. So I'm going to put everyone, I'm going to add, and in here I'm going to add just this. This is my hypothetical student. So up here it says everyone else. So I could say due for them the 19th, and I can say due for this person the 23rd. And of course, I'm going to, like I said, this until, I'm going to set it right away till near the end of the quarter, so that I don't have to unlock this repeatedly for various people. The other thing, I don't do the Sunday thing. I give them all at least 5 days, maybe 4 or 5 days, something more than 1 day. You're going to have people that are out. You're going to have people that are all kinds of stuff. And making it do that same day literally doesn't work. When did I do it? Like when I first started, I tried doing that. I was like, it'll motivate them to turn it in that day. It won't. The ones who aren't going to turn it in are not going to do that, and they're just going to be stressed, and then you're just going to be sitting there. Why didn't they turn it in? This isn't working. And you're going to end up more stressed out than you intended. You're like, I want them to just turn this in, and it's not going to happen. So I just wouldn't. I would give it a solid 4 or 5 days. Other people can turn it in. I normally post what they need to do in Google Classroom. I'm using Google Classroom more as a stream. I don't really use it for anything else. Now, the other thing you can do if you don't want to use Google Classroom is you can use announcements right here. So if you don't want to do that, you can go in here and add an announcement, and I can be like, all right, let's say the date 2/12/2021. And I'm like, all right, today's assignment was, and then I put down chapter world immigration. And normally I'll link the YouTube video with it so that they can do it. And so I've got it in here. I like to leave that they can reply so that if they have a question or something like that, then I can immediately answer in here. And that's going to end up showing up, I think, on the home page. might have to, under settings, you might have to make a, what is it? I think it's settings. Where's it at? Where's announcements? There it is. All right. Let me save. So there's that. And all right. All right. It should be showing up here. Might have to go into settings or something. It normally shows up at the top. Oh, there it goes. Maybe. Yep, there it is. All right, recent announcements. So the other couple things are that I feel like are helpful are going in here into your grade book. So if they're missing it, I'll go in that day and I'll turn it red. So red is your it's missing. I also will, if they're not in the Google Meet, I'll put absent in here. Or I might also put present in Google Meet, but not responsive and didn't turn assignment in. So I just go ahead and put notes in here, like for myself, and that helps with parents and whatever. It will mark it blue if it's late, so after the due date. It will not apply deductions unless you go like automatically in here and change it to automatically apply grade. Okay, so one, you can do this and you can put a 0 in there. So if they're missing it after the due date, it does it automatically. I've done this before and it kind of glitches. I don't like it. You can also do automatic deductions for late. Right now during COVID, I would not do that. That's just, I would not. It'll just mess you up and you'll end up with people upset. After the due date, that's when I put a 0 in. And then I will end up syncing it. Well, no, I sync it every day. So now, since I've got it set though to March 31st, they can go in here and they can change this by doing it. So if I go in here and I actually, so I put it at that, let me see if it works. I don't know if it'll put it in there. Come on. So I'm just gonna, oh God. All right. So once it's in here, it should show me, maybe I just got a 0 on it. No, it's not. I'd have to probably log into my test student. Either way, I go through and what'll end up happening is it will show it. Hang on. Let's say they do it after it's done, like being missing, and they get like a 5, right? So now you will have to go in and manually change this to none. You can change it to late if you want. I wouldn't deduct points for it. You could be like, all right, it was late, but that's just going to show that it was late. It's not going to deduct points until you deduct the points. So I would do this. I would also take into consideration if a student is struggling, their home life, whatever, you could go in here and you can go excused and exempt them from that. And that will bump their grade up because it won't factor it in. So that's another kind of option there. I do use Classcraft and I have that set up. I have some spells in there that basically allow students to cast spells that will give them points in a chapter in notes. They're helping each other with that. And as much as obviously I want them to get the content, if they have a bunch of missing stuff, they're going to get discouraged. They're not going to do it. And you're going to be sitting there frustrated. They're going to be frustrated. Parents are going to be frustrated. And it will not get better. So yes, they might miss this chapter, but they might then not miss the 10 chapters after that because they're not as discouraged about it. So I'm kind of giving that up in this case. I'd rather them try afterwards than nothing. So those are kind of my tips here for some grading, some best practices. You really the big thing is trying to force them to turn it in and put pressure on to do it faster. That only works for students who actually turn in their work. Because they'll be like, oh, I need to turn it in. So the kids that want to get really good grades, that's the only people it works for. Like the ones that aren't turning, honestly, they're not going to care. So it's just really in the end, it's just going to end up stressing you out more than it stresses them out, which is, I know you want to add the pressure to make them turn it in, but it's not going to work. Once you have this, you can go in and and send a message students who haven't submitted yet. And you can put in complete ASAP and you can just keep sending these messages to whoever, right, hasn't turned it in and annoy them. And then also you have a record of sending those in the inbox so you can go back to it and show that you've done that. So yeah, so that hopefully some of those tips will help you out. Again, I wouldn't take anything off for late work. I've been using zeros just to put it in there that they see that it's missing, and obviously if it goes past progress reports or, then it stays that way, but they can always fix it until that very last day. And so that's why I set it to that. So I don't have to unlock whatever, because that gets stressful as well.